All right, we're about to dive into a really powerful 6-chapter stretch in the book of Isaiah. It's this incredible journey that kicks off with a nation completely paralyzed by fear and somehow ends with a song of pure, unadulterated joy. So let's get into it. So here's how we're going to walk through this story, one chapter at a time. We'll start with a king's terrible choice, then see the warnings of judgment that follow. But then there's this sudden burst of hope. We'll see how God is really the one in control of these huge empires, and it all builds this promise of a perfect king and the celebration that wraps it all up. Okay, so our story opens in the middle of this intense political crisis. The kingdom of Judah and its king, a guy named Ahaz, are staring down an existential threat, and you can just feel the panic in the air. Picture this. It's about 735 BC. Two rival kingdoms, Syria and northern Israel, have teamed up, and their armies are marching straight for Jerusalem. The Bible describes King Ahaz and his people as being shaken, like trees getting thrashed around in a windstorm. It's into this scene of pure terror that the prophet Isaiah shows up with a message from God. God makes Ahaz an incredible offer. He says, ask for a sign, anything you want to prove I'm going to protect you. But Ahaz, in this moment of what seems like piety but is actually faithlessness, refuses. So God gives him a sign anyway. A child is going to be born, and his name will be Emmanuel. Now that name is everything. It literally means God with us. It's the perfect answer to the king's fear that he's been abandoned. The message couldn't be clearer. Trust me, not foreign armies. But Ahaz, he ignores it. Instead, he makes this disastrous political alliance with the brutal Assyrian Empire. So you see, Ahaz's fear pushed him to make a completely faithless decision. He rejected God's supernatural help for a human solution, and big surprise, it's going to backfire spectacularly. He's basically inviting the very empire he's paying for protection to come down and become his oppressor, and that choice has immediate, devastating consequences. Because Ahaz chose to trust a human empire instead of God, the whole tone of the prophecy shifts. Chapter 8 starts to spell out the very real, very tangible signs of the judgment that he's just invited on his own kingdom. The imagery here is just wow. Assyria isn't just an army anymore. They're described as a raging river, the mighty Euphrates, overflowing its banks. And this flood, it's not just going to wash away Judah's enemies. Nope, it's going to sweep right through Judah itself, rising all the way up to the neck. It's this perfect, terrifying picture of a political quick fix turning into a full-blown national disaster. And this right here is the absolute heart of the chapter. While everyone else is running around panicking about political conspiracies and who's allied with whom, God tells the faithful to just stop. Don't fear what the world fears. Instead, all that fear, all that awe and reverence, direct it to God and God alone. He's the one who's really in charge here. So the bottom line is pretty stark. If you look to political power plays or human scheming instead of God's word, you're just going to end up in confusion, anguish, and darkness. The only real anchor in a chaotic world is found in setting God apart as holy and trusting what he has said. Just when things seem completely hopeless, when the gloom is just overwhelming, Isaiah suddenly flips the script. Out of all this forecasted doom and darkness, this brilliant, stunning prophecy of hope just shines through. This is, without a doubt, one of the most famous verses in Isaiah. After all these chapters of impending disaster, the tone just completely changes. For the very same people who are sitting in the shadow of this coming Assyrian invasion, God promises a great light. It's a radical, defiant declaration that judgment is not God's final word. And here we find out what that light is. The ultimate answer to the failed, fearful leadership of kings like Ahaz is a divine child. This isn't just going to be another king. His names tell you everything. He's the wonderful counselor, showing his wisdom, the mighty God, showing his power, the everlasting Father, showing his eternal nature, and the Prince of Peace, showing the entire goal of his reign, a final end to all war and all oppression. So you see, God's ultimate fix for human failure isn't a better political strategy. It's a perfect person. A king who is the very definition of justice and righteousness, and who will establish a government of peace that will literally never end. Okay, so now the spotlight swings over to the instrument of God's judgment, that mighty Assyrian Empire. God might be using Assyria to accomplish his purposes, but that does not give them a free pass for their own unbelievable pride and cruelty. This slide lays it out perfectly. On the one side, you have the Assyrian king just boasting his head off, taking all the credit for his military victories. But on the other side, you get God's perspective. His reality check: Assyria, you're just a tool. You're a rod, an axe in my hands that I'm using to carry out my judgment. Isaiah just drives the point home with this killer rhetorical question. Can a tool take credit for the work of the one using it? The whole idea is absurd, right? And it perfectly captures the foolishness of Assyria's arrogance. They think they're the masters of destiny, but really, they're just an instrument in the hands of a sovereign God. The message here is so powerful. God is in control of all of history. He uses nations for his purposes, and he will absolutely judge the pride of any nation that lifts itself up against him. But, and this is so important, even while he's using Assyria for judgment, he promises that he will preserve a faithful remnant of his own people through it all. So after making it clear that the great forest of Assyria is going to be chopped down, Isaiah circles back to that incredible promise of the coming king from chapter 9. And this time, he paints an even more detailed, even more beautiful picture of what his reign is going to look like. The imagery of the stump is just, it's everything here. After the forests of the proud nations, including Judah, are leveled by judgment, all that's left is what looks like a dead stump. The royal line of King David's father Jesse seems totally finished. But out of that hopeless-looking stump, God is going to bring forth a new branch, a righteous ruler filled with his spirit. And the impact of this king's rule is, well, it's cosmic. It's not just about political peace between nations. The very fabric of creation is going to be rewoven. You'll have predators and prey living side by side in total harmony, all being led by a little kid? And how is this even possible? Because his reign will fill the entire earth with the knowledge of God. And that brings us to the final chapter in our journey. After this long, winding road through fear, judgment, and promise, what's the only possible response? Well, it's a song. Just think about how far we've come. We started this whole thing with a king shaking like a leaf in the wind, totally consumed by fear. We end it with the people of God singing, "I will trust and I will not be afraid." The journey from fear to faith is finally complete. The people are celebrating God himself as their strength, their song, and their salvation. And so we're left with this question to really think about. The way this whole section is structured suggests that when you truly grasp the fullness of God's power and his incredible plan for redemption, the end result isn't just a dry theological belief. The end result is an outburst of joyful worship. It's a reminder that salvation isn't just an idea to understand, it's a reality to be celebrated.